So good afternoon, everyone. This is Sanjeev Mota from BNK Securities. On behalf of BNK, I welcome you all to this another session of Ideation Series. We have with us Mr. Vidyashankar Krishnan, Vice Chairman and Managing Director of MM Forging. Most of you know him pretty well. He's a technocrat, very hands-on the technical side, and his customer relationship is very strong with. Despite all the challenges that we have seen in the domestic CV industry over the last couple of years, actually Forging has come out very, very strong. And now it's looking all set as the cycle improves. So we are looking forward to this conversation to hear more from him on where the company is and where it is going. We also have Mr. Annamalai Jayaraj, who's the head of our sector. And the format would be that I'll ask you some questions and then AJ will also ask you some more questions. So that's how we'll do. And anybody has any questions, please you can put it in the Q&A box and we'll make sure that we'll try to ask all the questions. So welcome so much, sir, for this and thank you for taking time to do this.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be here and be happy to answer your questions as you may. Please proceed.
Sir, thank you. So, sir, I'll start with actually a very broad question and about the company. So, when MM Forging started, it started as a, one client company with Royal Enfield and, long time ago. Now you have multiple clients all across the world, and, one of the larger players here. So, sir, it'll be great if you can just talk a bit about that journey, how the company has gone through this journey, where we are, and where do you see yourself 5 years from now, let's say?
Yep. So, 1946 we were incorporated, and the balance sheet that is under preparation is our is our 75th balance sheet. Sorry for the interruption. We started off with selling motorbikes for Royal Enfield, and then became sole selling agents for Enfield India, with showrooms in Chennai, Bangalore, and Delhi. Over time, between 1946 50s and 1972, we were only involved in bike sales. After which, 72, my father, C. Krishnan, he joined the company. He took over the management of the company, and he was a chartered accountant, but a passionate engineer at heart, and had set up Enfield's Agro division, which remained profitable till its sales to Crompton Greaves. He was having a niche in manufacturing. So when he joined MM Forgings in 72, Madras Motors as we were known then, he wanted to get involved into manufacturing very much. And in 2 years, he got a chance to be an ancillary for Enfield when Enfield expanded its operation in Madurai, southern India. So he set up the Ford shop there. That was plant 1 at Singampunari, started way back then. Slowly, one plant after the other came up, and today we are where we are. In 1990, I joined the company, and that was the year when we had planned an expansion at our Trichy plant. So he wanted to move away from plant 1 and at the same time come towards Chennai. So the logical thing was to move towards Trichy, and so we established our plant at Viralimalai on the outskirts of Trichy on 22nd January, if I'm not mistaken, of 1991. And today, Viralimalai happens to be our plant 2 and our flagship plant. In 99, he passed away, so I took over the reins of the company since then. In 2002, we established our plant at Oragadam, what is now known as Oragadam. Back then, you would not believe, we were the only manufacturer there at that time. Nobody else was in Oragadam in 2002 when we started operations. It was just a lake district, if I can use the word. Today there are more than 500 plus companies in that area. It's one of the hottest investment destinations in the auto industry, auto clusters in the country. Probably next to Gurgaon and Maharashtra's MSIDC near Pune, MHIDC. Over time, we have established solar and wind farms in the southern districts of Tamil Nadu. In 2014, we came across an opportunity to look at an 8,000 ton press, and we took that opportunity, and the press was commissioned in 2016. It took us a couple of years to stabilize the production, and by 2017 and onwards, our big breaks came with the OEs, with the domestic market literally roiling in terms of suppliers unable to keep pace with demand. So Forgings entered a very rare space of large forgings and was welcomed by all OEs, and very quickly we established our presence in the domestic market. Now one thing led to another, and we found that the three main parts that are produced out of the large presses, beams, knuckles and crankshafts, we were having machining facilities for two, but didn't have the facility for crankshafts, which we were looking to outsource. We were looking at various vendors. We came across one Devious Industries in Pantnagar as a possible vendor for Forgings, and ultimately ended up buying them in 2018. So this is a very short story. After that, our presence in the domestic market has been very significant. We have entered into the tractor industry, apart from every OE in India. So in a short few minutes, this is the history of Forgings. When I joined the company, we did 5 lakh rupees of exports in 1 year. Today, we may export more than that in 1 hour.
Right.
So that is the extent to which we have grown. We have focused on exports even when buy from India, make in India were not buzzwords right through the 90s. Today, our exports stand at about 55% of our turnover. Over the next couple of years, if we get our act straight, or rather, I would say, the Indian economy gets its act straight, we should be looking at an export ratio of about 40%. Not that exports will degrow, but that our domestic market is poised for much greater growth.
Right.
So this is in a nutshell about the company, Sanjeev. You can.
So, sir, I just to take it from here, assuming everything is going to go right, and as you said, domestic also picks up, you could easily be a 2,000 crore plus company in just a couple of years' time, and again growing. For achieving this kind of scale and growing from there, do you think the organization is now ready in terms of, so as someone put it, do you have many, you will probably need a few clones of yourselves in the company as well to be able to take this to the next level. So how ready is the organization for that growth?
Yeah. We have been investing very heavily into facilities in the last few years. Those who have been tracking the company would be aware of our statements that we have put in close to 750 crores in the last 5-6 years. And therefore, it is no surprise that we would also achieve scale. So if we were doing 750 crores even before this, having put in that kind of money, one would expect us to naturally grow. And we did up to about 950 or 940 odd in 2019, FY19, after which the CV market really tanked due to both cycle and accentuated by the bringing in of axle load norms, which dramatically increased the availability of CVs in the country. That was immediately followed by the COVID catastrophe, which we are still yet to come out of. So over the next 2-3 years, subject to the Indian economy righting itself a little bit, we should be able to look at the numbers that we were talking about.
Right. No, but I'm just saying from organization capability perspective, are you ready, or like, I'm just trying to understand, and one of the concerns that many investors are, is it a one-man show, or you have a full organization ready to take it to the next level of number? Because once you cross the 2000 and you become much bigger, so that was the more a question.
Okay, let me put it this way. We are focused on getting to that number first.
Right.
Okay, and beyond that, we have not thought much. I'll be
Right.
candid enough upfront.
Hmm.
The reason is there's too much going on as of now, both within the company and in the space in which the company is operating, and to the space in which company is operating by way of expectations on EV, etc.
Sure.
So we are focused on getting to that number first, and that is where we put our money as well. We borrowed a lot, and we repaid a lot. We're repaying a lot. So we expect to look at those numbers first. That doesn't mean that we are blind to what is going on, what is going to come beyond that, but that's our focused goal.
Sure.
Okay. So I wish I could tell you that this company runs with only my effort. That is sadly wrong. There is a strong team behind me. I just take a couple of minutes off on expatiating this point. See, over the last few years, we've seen a lot of growth, and I'm seeing more growth coming our way, particularly with our presence in the domestic market and export markets. So, and today the growth items coming in are big ticket items. So each step is 25 crores, 50 crores, 100 crores of business coming in. So we can't handle that in the way we used to earlier. So I've taken a kind of a break, a hard look at the organization, and decided to break the organization into two, or rather into 4 verticals. I focus on the vertical that I first carved out. The other 2 verticals are automatic. Basically, manufacturing handled development. So now, and we had a projects team to support them by way of simple projects. But development was focused on by the manufacturing team itself. So now what I've done is strong manufacturing head. So we've created a very strong division set of people with clear KRAs to go only after development. So manufacturing has been carved into 2. One is manufacturing, and the other is capability and capacity creation. Or in a crude word, development projects, you can call it by anything. So we call it capability and capacity creation. That's their goal. Right. The manufacturing team has to work with this capability and the capacity. They can tinker around it, but not by much. And they would be delivering to the customer. So they have their own challenges. People come, people go, machines break down, customers want changing priorities, raw material is not available. So all those things they are handling, they continue to handle. But what they don't handle is development. Right. So development and initial customer facing until handover of the project to the manufacturing team. We put a specific team involved for that. We've recruited at a vice president level, and we've instituted a serious set of people under that to strengthen that area. So focus is on manufacturing on one side, and before that, one set of the organization looks only at the growth aspect. Right. Of course, other 2 parts are finance and marketing. Sure. Already there, we're buttressing, ensuring that they're running properly, served by these 2. Right. So this is a major step that we have taken over the last few months to keep the focus and the momentum going. Because once we reach 2000, next question will be what next? Now, even a 10% growth over there will be 200 crores a year, 300 crores a year. Right. So to grow 200, 300 crores a year, you need one organization to take care of that itself. Only if one set of people focus on that, can they hand over the ball to the next set of people to carry it forward. Sure. So
Fair point.
I hope this answers your question.
No, absolutely, sir. Thank you. So the next set of questions, couple of questions on a bit of your thought process on the financial metrics. For example, you have not raised money in equity since the first your IPO, right? You've expanded through debt, and while sometimes this industry can be very cyclical and debt can be very dangerous. Uh, but you all have done very well on that, and the company looks in a great shape. So, what is your thought on that? In terms of growth, is it, are you planning to continue doing this, or you have any other kind of thought process on this?
See, as things stand, I think our worst period as far as debt is concerned is over.
Mm-hmm.
At least in the past, unless some other new googly is thrown our way.
Right.
So we went to as high as 4 times debt to EBITDA,
Right.
all that. Over the last couple of years, we have repaid close to 150 crores, and we stand today at about 400 crores of debt, long-term
Right.
debt, and that is without cash in hand.
Mm.
So we have about 185 odd crores of cash. So if you look at that, we are hardly at about 200 crores of long-term debt, net debt, which is fairly manageable. We embarked on this exercise of adding debt only with the caveat of keeping money in the bank for 2 years of repayment.
Right.
Otherwise, I would not have embarked on this. In fact, even some of the board members, including Mr. Srinivasan, happened to ask, why are we borrowing when we have money in the bank or money elsewhere? The reason I made very clear was that in 2008, when we had a recession, and later also, basically, debt isn't available to you when you want it. So at that time, all the lenders, throw a long face, ask a lot of questions, and when you need it most, it may not be available. So we took the thing that we take on debt when we want, when we can,
Right.
and when it is available. So that with that strength alone, we embarked into this project, and I must say that not one night I've had lost sleep due to this.
Right.
Because of the fact that we had 2 years of repayment in cushion, as a cushion.
Right.
I knew that ultimately, even if the organization broke even, so long as we didn't bleed cash, we would ensure that we would come out on top. So we went ahead with this as basis.
Right.
So going forward, I would say our worst period, that is our period of stress, is largely behind us, with the Indian economy poised to grow. We can argue to what extent it will grow in the next few months. That's debatable. But ultimately, we all know that we've seen 1 year of COVID. Second year hopefully should be a lot better. And with the waning effect of the overhang of supply and demand in the CV industry, CV market is also poised for growth.
Right.
So going forward, to answer the precise question on debt and capital, I would expect us to rely on debt for the next few years to come.
Right.
Okay. And strengthen the organization. I'm not saying that massive expansions are on the cards, but whenever required, we grow a little bit with maintain 100, 200 crore, 300 crore levels of debt. And should the need arise, we are not averse to raising capital. Always we've looked at what is good for the organization, as we've done. Should it require that the organization need money, we are not averse to looking at capital markets. I've also had few discussions with Jairaj, when things were not so well a year back, but purely at sounding off level, at sounding board level, what are our options, kind of. So we are open to do what is required for the organization.
Right. Fair point, sir. So as an organization, what is the key thing that you look at for judging the success? Is it revenue? Is it profits? Is it market cap? What is it that you think is the success factor that you attribute most to?
There is only one factor that we attribute success to, and that is customer satisfaction.
Right.
So it's none of these, because all these are stakeholders who ultimately end up in serving the customer. Right. So we have to be focused on only one thing all times, and ensure that we are serving customers.
Right.
With that will come market cap, earnings, etc., etc. Of course,
Right.
we would like to serve customers not for free. We would like to retain something as part of, make some income out of the earning, some earnings out of the income.
Sure. Sure, sir. So, coming to the industry, so forging industry, if you see most of the players, and you just said yourself that 55% is, well, last year was exported, although it may come down to 40 if Indian economy does well. So, what is it that makes forging such a competitive industry for India? What is that competitive edge that we have, and do you think this can continue?
What makes forgings so viable in India, first, is our cost of labor. Brutal. What the IT industry does to bring in IT jobs into India, forgings industry also does similarly. Plus, the fact that our steel is not, until the last few months, last 1.5 years, our steel has been largely to international market.
Right.
Largely. But since 2008, I have seen that Indian steel has been leading the pack in terms of price increases globally. So prices of steel go up first in India and next in the rest of the world. But ultimately, we should also thank the steel industry for keeping supplies on, and also the fact that last few good years, they have also turned their act around. Much of the consolidation that has taken place, many of the units that were closed have been bought back under NCLT. So steel availability is a second cause. So first one would be labor, second is steel, and the other is the engineering mindset available in the country. The talent pool that is available in the country that is focused towards engineering. These would be the three reasons why the forging industry has found a good thing in India, and will continue to do so as long as forgings are required, which I believe will continue so long as anything there is moving will require forgings, where there is a strength to weight trade-off. That is, you require high strength and you require low weight, or you require a high strength to weight ratio. There a forging is required. You cannot put a casting, you cannot put a rolled part, because that would simply be too heavy.
So you think that 20% kind of EBITDA margins that most of the players have today can continue because we have this, we have a competitive edge. So you think that these margins are sustainable?
I think so. I think so. We've seen Bharat Forge operate at the higher end of the 20s.
Right.
And slowly Ramakrishna and us are probably heading. Well, of course, we were also there in the early 20s, dropped a little bit. Now we're back again. So I think overall it bodes well for the industry.
Right. So you also talked about
things are having moved into heavier parts.
Right.
Means that the margins are a bit more sustainable. But having said that, I must also admit that this industry has become very capital intensive. Very capital intensive. Not like earlier when we used to put 1 rupee of investment, I used to get 2 rupees of turnover. Now it's almost like 1:1.
Right.
So the industry has become, particularly when we are investing in machining. See, we don't sell twice naturally, right?
Right.
What we machine is only a value add on our sales.
Right.
So that being the case, the sales to sales to investment ratio has been coming a bit more stricter, lesser. So it's capital intensive. Being capital intensive, naturally there must be a certain amount of margins to keep investing. Otherwise the cycle will get cut.
Right.
So that is probably another reason why margins are a little bit more higher
Right.
than the rest of the auto component pack.
Right. Again, a personal question to you: what has been the most difficult period that you've kind of, and any learning from that? You talked about 2008. You talked about even COVID issue. What has been personally the most difficult time in this for forging, and any learning that you've taken and adapted?
Yeah, when we put up our heavy forgings division recently, for about 1 to 2 years, we struggled with production, people, process, setting things right. And I took it upon myself to lead the team with calls going right up to 2 a.m. in the morning, almost every day.
Right.
So it was a time of great learning and also great thrill in terms of every success was really celebrated. So we have to be looking back, I would say probably we should have moved in a few more people into that space. We did that finally, and that guy also has worked wonders, which is why I now have the time to focus on the business side of things.
Right.
So a couple of more technical people by 2018, my manufacturing head and I, we sat down and said, let us literally plunder the organization and take whomsoever we feel will fit into the role, who can fit into the role, after due thought, of course, and put them into the heavy forging division. Maybe we could have done it a year or two earlier.
Right.
I would have saved a lot of my balding.
Right. So your brother is also involved in the business, right? How do you all split your roles in terms of?
He focuses largely on
Right.
marketing, particularly exports. So there is absolutely no overlap at all.
Right.
Everything else I handle.
Right.
So he does his part and I focus on mine, and we each have our space.
Right.
We interact with each other whenever there is an escalation.
Right.
So
Sure, sir. Sir, last couple of questions from me, and then I'll just hand over to Mr. Jairaj. Just one thing on EV, you also mentioned about that, you will also see impact of EV maybe 2-3 years later, and then reevaluate some of the things. What is your sense? How would the industry change with the advent of EV?
two-wheelers is a done deal straight
Right.
away. 2 and 3-wheelers will go EV within a blink of an eye. Before 2025, we will see many EVs. A great percentage of 2-wheelers and 3-wheelers will be EVs, if not all. I mean, 2 years seems to be very short. 3 years or even 4 years seems to be very short to replace the entire 2-wheeler industry. But it will have its own shocks. So by 2025, a good portion of 2-wheeler sales in India will be EV. China already, I'm told, doesn't sell any IC engine based.
That's right.
2-wheelers.
Yeah.
Not any, maybe at least a bulk.
Hmm.
So maybe recreational, maybe high end, so on. Enthusiast biking, all that those are exceptions. But even now, BMW has come out with an electric bike that specs I've seen seems to wow many enthusiasts.
Right.
But still, riding a silent bike will be different from riding a bike that gives you the thud feel. All those things are market dependent, but ultimately, we feel the mass market is going EV. We all know that. Advent of Ola, every 2-wheeler manufacturer is jumping in the gun. Now, between now and then, something will give way. I'm sure that some portion of cars will also go through the EV route. The passenger vehicle market will go through the EV route, but not by much. I foresee supply side constraints as far as EVs are concerned. I hope I'm not doing wishful thinking, but that is my expectation.
Right.
Because we sounded out a few people in the PV industry a few years back. Even then, there was a clear awareness, even at the highest echelons up to Niti Aayog, that we should not go from oil dependence to China dependence.
Right.
China controls a lot of the mineral wealth. Of
Right.
course, this doesn't factor in phenomenal changes in material science. For example, somebody is able to make vehicles run out of raw water or out of sodium instead of lithium. Already, I see that there are some technologies coming out to use sodium instead of lithium. So there are lots of things happening in that space. So barring any miracle there, I would say there will be a break on EV penetration in the PV market, passenger vehicle market. We had a seminar in 2018 as part of our Asia Forge conference in Mahabalipuram, where we had a panel discussion, which I was the moderator for, to discuss the EV impact. We had a discussion, we had a panelist from Euroforge, and he was very clear that the governments there planned at 30% incursion of EVs in the passenger vehicle space by 2030. But the industry has gone back to the government and said they will be very happy if there will be, even 20% will be a stretch target. So this is the feeling in Europe itself. In India, moot point. So one is supply side. The other point is also EV also produces waste. It is not that lithium is a recyclable entity. So those technologies have to evolve. We can't have batteries littering our environment. We'll have to walk the talk. Entire society has to walk the talk ultimately. So considering all this, my view is PASCAR, there will be a penetration of around 20 to 30% by 2030. I'm being very optimistic for the EV side.
Right.
On commercial vehicles and tractors, I don't see anything happening I don't see much penetration happening over the next 15 years.
Right.
Up to 2035. There will be attempts, but those will be, small single-digit percentage, if at all. If at all. So this is my expectation of an EV rollout. I could be wrong. I could be right.
Right.
Sure, and I'm constantly validating this with whatever I hear, read, and see. So far, this view has been stuck for the last 3 years. It's not come unstuck. But we must also remember, there are these wonderful WhatsApp photographs that show a photograph from a snapshot from a very high skyrise in New York. Right. And over 2 years, how horse-drawn carriages have disappeared and only motor cars were there. Right. So such a thing is still not ruled out, but I'm not able to see it happening over the next 7 to 10 years at least. Sure. The other point on the EV sector that I'm pretty this thing is, batteries are not going to be the fuel of the future. Hydrogen is going to be the fuel of the future. And here again, I have been voicing this at several fora for the last 3 years. And today that is gaining chorus. Many manufacturers are focusing more on hydrogen. They're starting with EV, with battery-driven technology, but they're all focusing on hydrogen. And for us in the automotive, in the metals, hard and nut space, the ideal thing to happen will be a hydrogen combustion engine. Because that will mean that we guys are not outdated or made dinosaur overnight. That will mean that we still have work to do in the metal forming industry. Right. But that could be wishful thinking. I do not know. These are my thoughts.
Sure, Sanan. That's interesting. And I guess we can go on, but I guess I just last question on this from my side, and then AJ, in terms of consolidation of the industry, you've seen a bit of consolidation happening. Where do you see, how many players you think, and would you be also open for buying, some of the smaller companies?
Actually, in our own silent way, I'll answer your question first. Okay. Consolidation will take place. Until 2017, I was under the impression that MM Forgings will grow only organically. But in 2017, when we set out to look at vendor and finally acquired DVS, I realized that that's not necessarily true. The reason why I came to that conclusion was that good quality assets are not available in India. Wrong. Good quality assets are available in India, maybe coupled with bad quality management. Once NCLT came in, and the threat of management losing control of their defunct organizations, comes the opportunity to free asset quality from management quality.
Yeah.
So that represents a huge opportunity within India. And in our own little way, after DVS, I'd like to say that we have completed 3 acquisitions. Though they are not acquisitions as in share purchases. Just to highlight a few, we took over a crankshaft manufacturing facility in Pantnagar. Apart from DVS, there was a neighbor, a plant being run by Amul. So we took over their crankshaft making facilities, just the machines. Okay. Then in 2020, very tiny weeny acquisition of a crankshaft manufacturer in Noida by name BSN Industries. Just 3 crore, but still it got us more market share and positioning with other customers. Second. Third, we've also completed the buying of machines owned by Clover, a subsidiary of Amtech.
Right.
Just this April we concluded, and today most of the machines are established at various facilities of MMF, including DVS, and they're all into various stages of coming into operation. So in our own way, silent manner, we've done 3 acquisitions post DVS. I'm talking post DVS. So I would definitely agree with you that going forward, you can hear more. You can expect to hear more from us on this, and this will be the way forward.
Right.
Not the only way. We'll see value there, we acquire, and that value must be reasonably long term, not short term.
Great, sir. Jairaj, you want to take over from here?
Yeah. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jairaj.
I have some questions on short to medium term. First is,
Okay.
currently, around 75% of our revenue comes from the CV market, either global or domestic. So what are we hearing from the customers on the global CV market, and the domestic MSCV, when is we expect it to recover, sir?
Jairaj, second part of your question, I think I'd give $1 billion to get a good answer. Okay. Anyway, first, the thing, US truck market is doing pretty strong, slightly weak on semiconductor deliveries. And we have to see the joker in the pack there is taper tantrums. America is turning off the aid from September onwards, and what impact that will have in terms of buying abilities of Americans remains to be seen. So, but by and large, that market is expected to go strong until end of 2022, surely. Next comes Europe, chugging along. No great news from there, but in today's world, no news is great news. So Europe's CV market has been going pretty strong. India, we all know, is a mixed bag. I would expect the Indian market to take off sometime in 2022-23. We'll see, of course, first half of 21-22 has been very subdued. We will see some action hopefully in the second half, and that should continue into the next fiscal and there onwards. Ultimately, if India is to become a $5 trillion economy, which is a question of time, 5 years, 7 years, Forget the 2 years of COVID, that's gone. So we may have even degrown a little bit. That doesn't matter, we'll recoup it. So 5 to 7 years, surely India will become a $5 trillion economy from around 2.5 to 3 million now. At that time, in that period, the CV market is certainly poised for tremendous growth.
Okay.
The growth from a 2.5 to $5 trillion economy cannot happen without contribution from the CV industry. Typically, I've heard numbers that if X is the growth rate in the economy, 2X should be the growth rate in the CV market. We can all do the math.
Okay. Sir, in 1Q, we have our sale was around 13,800 tons, and our full year guidance is 60 to 65,000 tons. And are we sticking to that? That means, I mean, last year we did around 44,000 tons. That means we are talking about some 40 to 50% year-on-year growth in FY22, despite domestic MHCV, which is expected to only partially recover in the second half. So, what are the driving factors despite MHCV slowdown that we will be witnessing this 40-50% growth? And for FY23, what are the expectations?
Okay. See, whatever I'm going to say, I would like to say very clear. I would like to put the caveat upfront. COVID. Okay, it's all subject to COVID, so none of us can take a bet. Now, for FY22, we had said a number of between 60 to 65,000 tons. We are almost there in Q1 at about 13,800. It's just 15,000 tons, which is a benchmark or run rate per quarter. We are marginally under that. So we should be able to look at that number ultimately. That's number one. So for this year, we still stand by our guidance, subject to the economy doing reasonably well in rest of Q2 and in H2. The next is year ahead. I've already gone public on this. Even in this close gathering, I don't mind stating that again. Just the math of MM Forgings, okay? This is the way I am looking at our sales. March 2021, we did 100 crores that month alone. And not with a lousy CV market, but certainly not a great CV market by any stretch. Market was well below its nominal levels. So I would expect growth in CV space would lead to, or some amount of normalization there would lead to about 20 to 25 crores per month of incremental sales for MM Forgings. Okay, so that adds another 25 odd crores. Next, we look at new parts and parts under development. This would translate to something around, again, 25 to 30 crores per month. So both put together, we are looking at about 50 odd crores of growth of incremental turnover to March. Of course, the assumption is that Indian market will stabilize somewhat. Not running hot, but definitely not running cold. So given these two factors, we should be looking at a turnover easily in the region of 2,000 crores. When would this happen? Big question. No answer directly. But I would kind of expect this run rate to start kicking in somewhere during 22-23 if everything goes well, or delayed by a year if things are slow. But as far as MMF is concerned, again it's a big stretch. From 750 we'll be looking at about close to 1,000 for somewhere in the 4-figure mark this year, and a direct jump to 2,000. I wouldn't mind a year of not pause in between, but a year of stopover in between wherever, and then come close to the 2,000 mark. So anyway, we are not saying no or yes to this. As the market goes, we are ready to tag along.
New product, what we talked about, when we will start delivering to the customers?
It will start in about 3 to 4 months from now. All not in full stream. Don't expect immediately that Q4 will be plus 25 crores per month. No. It will start to kick in from 3 to 4 months on and take up to a year for these parts to come in.
Okay.
And
Then,
some
sorry.
of these parts are also to the CV industry. So there will be a certain amount of overriding shadow or the growth pattern of the Indian economy will play a role in that as well. But having said that, these are not, this 25-30 crores is not parts that we have to go out. It's not a business plan. It's not wishful thinking. It's not a sales plan. These are parts under development, various phases of development.
Understood, sir. Then on the margin front, the last quarter we reported 18.1% EBITDA margin, and last quarter, 4Q, we reported a close to 20%. So now with scale, what are the margin expectations, or what are any margin?
I would say something like 4Q F21 could be a decent level with a slight upward bias possible if all factors go in our way.
On the
But having said
margin,
that, we are also seeing a lot of inflationary pressures. So there is always constant pressure on margins.
yeah, but raw material will be a pass through now, sir, for us.
Generally, yes, but there is a lag. Sometimes there is a lag.
Hmm.
And with some customers, it takes more than a quarter to pass it on.
Mhm.
Some customers, it happens within a month. So it's a mixed bag.
And similarly, now we will be seeing some pricing
But-
pressure because, yeah.
Sorry, but by and large, let me leave the correct impression. It is a pass through. We cannot
Okay.
survive otherwise.
Now we will be having some cost pressure due to logistics also, sir, because
Oh, yes.
rates are going up. So whether it
Oh,
will
yeah.
be able to pass on that, sir, or at least
We are
over a
struggling.
period.
We are struggling to pass them on, but many customers have seen the logic, export customers, and have agreed to compensate us from April onwards. But all this is not reflected in our April, May, June costs. Please understand. Or at least on the income side. So that's another reason why you saw a little bit of a blip in the margins. One was some amount of steel increases with export customers, some amount of freight, lot of freight was all concluded beyond in June or beyond.
So it may start reflecting from the current quarter, sir.
Should.
Okay.
But then we have to see the interplay of other costs going up, like manpower, etc.
Okay.
So we can safely say that somewhere around 4Q should hold.
Okay. And on the margin side, generally the high tonnage components will have better margins, sir, compared to the lower tonnage.
Generally, yes, because they're terribly capital expensive, Jairaj. Terribly. Hugely capital intensive. Of course,
Similarly,
once they go into bulk production, the parts are also big. So they they merit that capital, and they also behave according to the capital put in.
And similarly, machined components will have better margins, sir.
That's a mixed bag. Some of the machining that we do is just service.
Okay.
Some of the machining that we do is even at a loss. But in general, if we get our act properly together on the certification of the product and the customer and the market, machining does add value. At worst case, it helps at least preserve the forging value.
Then moving to capacity.
But machining is also capital intensive. Machining is also capital intensive. So what we are now looking at, Jairaj, is another dimension to manufacturing is what we can outsource to vendors so that we can spare some cash at least.
Okay.
My modest target for this year is to save 10 crores of capex.
But are the capacity available nearer to our plant, something like that, sir? machining capacity?
Now that's what we have to walk the talk. We have to invite vendors. We have to tie up with them. It takes time.
Yeah.
We have. It all starts with intent first. In any case, so
Yeah.
that intent and that expression is there very clearly now. They're out in the market looking for vendor partners.
Yeah.
So as we get them, we would like to partner with them, see to it that they grow with us.
Then on the capacity side, forging currently our capacity is around 1 lakh tons. And now I think we'll be moving to 120,000 tons.
Yes, with the commissioning of our 6,300 ton press sometime in third quarter of this year, we will be reaching a capacity of 1,20,000 tons.
Yeah. And what is the capex for estimated capex for 22 and 23, sir? And
22, 23 or 21, 22?
Yeah, 21, 22 and 22, 23. Yeah.
Sir, I think our budget is around 200 crores so far, of which about 40, 50 has been, 30, 40 has been, 50 has been spent already. So balance of about 100 to 150. We budgeted in some components that are likely to come in. Okay. If they don't come in, that capex will not be incurred. 22, 23 onwards, I would say as of now, my budget would be somewhere in the region of 100 crores.
Okay. And it will be funded through internal generation, sir?
Through internal crores.
Yeah.
As of.
Okay. Sir, there are some couple of questions in the chat box, sir.
Yes.
Mr. Sanjeev, sir, you can ask or shall I ask, sir?
Sure. I can see the chat. I can answer the questions directly if you.
No, sir, I think some of them you've already answered. So maybe I'll just ask you the ones that are not answered. Right. So one is in terms of, one of the.
I see only two messages, Sanjeev.
No, actually the
directly
have come to
him, sir.
So ones that you can see, maybe you can answer, then I'll ask you the.
Yeah. CV industry is cyclical. Is there any plan to enter newer areas? We are on the lookout, but we have just entered massively into the Indian CV industry. So, good or for bad, we've taken a step there. We have to ride the waves until we kind of stabilize. We are looking for opportunities to diversify and to, reduce our dependence there. But for the now, gentlemen, we will have to stick with that dependence. That's a direction we have taken. This is a ship, can't be turned around like an auto rickshaw. So direction taken is very clearly in that space with larger components, so which are going to serve that industry. But wherever we can look at alternatives, we are looking at alternatives. Yes, ROCE has been hovering around 14-15%. True. I agree that growth plus ROC is what gets you market cap. We have to be more efficient on capital employed. But last few years, we have been putting in a lot of money into the company, investing a lot. And definitely I can say last 3 years, I have not been anywhere near the original plans as far as demand is concerned. So such being the case, ROCE will take a knock. Now imagine the same numbers of MM forgings 2 years down the line or 2.5 years down the line at about 2,000 crores of turnover, say 1,750, even we're a little bit skeptical, 1,750, and even assuming a 20% EBIT, we're looking at 350 crores. Interest bordering on the same 30 crore margins. So ROC, even anyway, interest is there in the ROC on the numerator side. So ROCE will double if this happens. So we would see something that's far more exciting. Point very well is taken, and that is also reflected in the past of the company last 3 years. We have not gotten the market to where we have invested because we virtually we have invested ourselves into a bust period, into a slowdown. It is in public view, so I cannot hide it, and no intention as well. I hope that answers the question. So when we reach those kinds of ROCE levels, market should also look at us with different eyes.
Yeah.
I hope.
I think it would. So a couple of questions which are not visible to you, and I'll ask that.
Sure.
One is actually slightly more like qualitative questions. How do you get challenged when taking decisions? Who do you engage so that the good problem solving takes place? What is your sounding board like? Who's your sounding board?
Depends upon the problem.
Right, but maybe some examples you can give, that would be great.
Sorry, can you
Some
rephrase it?
examples
Can you
would be
repeat the
great,
question?
yeah. So, like, who is your sounding board? Like, who do you take? So, maybe some examples of this would be interesting to hear.
He wants you to read the question again.
So, what I'm saying, how do you get challenged when taking decisions? Who do you engage so that good problem solving takes place? What is your sounding board like? So,
Okay. First, I consult the direct stakeholder himself. I engage with the direct person who faces the problem or who brings the problem and says, okay, this is a problem that we've got to solve, or I'm facing this problem. Or sometimes the bringer of the message is not the person to solve the problem, but it is somebody else's problem, in which case he is virtually the responsible person for that problem. So first I engage with that person and find out from him or her what solution can be offered. Then what I do is I also look at the closest expert to that subject. For example, if it's a marketing problem, I might consult another marketing colleague. If it's a pricing issue, I might consult somebody else. Not necessarily the team member, the business in charge, the key account manager who brought in that specific issue, but somebody else, so that I get a different view whether this can be done or not, whether we should abandon or we should take a call going forward, what we should. So first is the stakeholder himself. Next is the allied stakeholder. Very rarely, then of course, not very rarely, go to board members. Sound them out on, okay, this is the issue that we are facing. What are your views? Mostly within these solutions are found. Beyond this also, there are friends in the industry, sound them out for advice, basically direction. Okay, we are looking at this move, we are getting into bigger forgings, we are looking at acquiring this large customer, what do you think? So most of those are, I would say, decisions are automatic and staring at us in the face, but still sounding board with a good variety of people. So a lot of, what shall I say, soul searching goes into decision making. Probably, in my opinion, too much of soul searching also. I could be a little bit faster if I were to abandon some caution. But I'm saying that this has held the company well over the last 25, 30 years. So why abandon what has been working? Doesn't matter. Big decisions, go a bit cautious.
so Tamil Nadu has a pretty big ecosystem, auto ecosystem. How is the camaraderie like? When you talk to, maybe client or there could be a competitor or kind of other auto component companies. Is there a lot of discussion that goes on, which is they help each other or?
Yes, it's got a good culture, and very recently I was also inducted into MCCI, Madras Chamber of Commerce and Industry, by my good friend Srivats Ram, who is the current president. So into the general council, which is the managing council of that body. So there I find, last few months, lots of common issues are being discussed, and the quality of those discussions are way beyond what I thought would take place, and there's a lot of learning.
So last question.
Vibrant
Very quiet.
possibility here. Yeah,
Right.
that's it.
Okay. So last question is in terms of product mix, so higher weightage product or machine products, where are we now, and like how is that improving? You have answered that question to some extent, but just kind of.
No, it's a valid question.
Yeah.
And should be given in the backdrop of whatever we've discussed, particularly the growth that we are envisaging.
Right.
Okay. So today, value wise, we are machining around 40% of our sales comes from machined parts. I repeat, the Indian economy gets its act together. Okay, it's a very indirect way of saying so many things, but it's a fact. What with its obsession with COVID. Okay, and we also get our internal act properly. I would expect us to this ratio to go to as high as 70%. A big change.
Right.
Big change. So which is why you see that we made the focus in terms of carving out manufacturing into two parts. One pillar focusing on delivering, servicing the customer. They have to grapple with day-to-day issues by the dozen. Everybody throws shit at them. And another set that looks at creating capacity and capability. It's a tiny, of course, the two aren't comparable in terms of their size, naturally. One is almost 100 times larger than the other. But this 1% or 2% of the setup consumes more than 40% of my mind space and time schedule, and is also going to propel the organization forward. So growing from 40 to 70% is not going to be a small joke. But I will add one other caveat here. It does not look as impossible because this 40 and 70% is not on the same base. It's not on the same base of 50,000 tons. We're looking at an expanded base of 80 to 100,000 tons.
Right.
So, or maybe a little bit more. So, much of this growth, we have already put the equipment and processes in for. And literally, we are waiting for the ship to come home. That's why I said jokingly, for the Indian economy to set right itself. A good portion of that comes from what we've already set in motion, and a good portion is also being set in motion even as we speak. I'll make a candid statement. We have some time, or should I?
No, please go ahead. We have time. Yeah.
Okay. See, last June we inducted a senior person into the machine shop projects. I was even wondering, this guy joins, what work will I give him? Because last April, May, we like kind of staring at the wrong end of the barrel. But today, last 12 months, this guy has been amongst the most busiest in the country, in the company. Today, he's all, you can say very clearly, he's overburdened.
That's a good problem.
That's a good thing. It's a good thing to be in. And we've also got, as I said, a senior vice president to look at this process fully of development fully. So my mind is now focusing on what next. And this thing on my time management will be, I assume, over the next few years will pan out something like this. We'll discuss about it again if you want to. Look at about 2 acquisitions a year. Maybe small, 30 crore, 40 crore, kind of 50 crore, like that kind of space. Maybe bigger. It depends on what comes our size, what comes our way, and what is our relative size at that point of time.
Right.
But something on these lines. So I would be focusing on what next and keeping a strong this thing on the business side of it. Where is our cost going? Margins, where are they coming from? Are our customers being serviced properly? Are our internal processes under control? So now we've moved in people for all these areas. Market, finance, internal audit. So all those things are there. And they're all starting to pay off. So my focus will be on future. So which answers the other question from one Janaki Raman. Given technology disruption, how do we see beyond 120K? So first focus, I would say, we are not looking anything beyond 120K. The reason is we have to reach there. Right now we are at 45, 50, and we have to go to 100 plus. That itself is double, but it will happen. Meaning there has been momentum, and we've also been stagnant over the last couple of years. So there's a combination of time, preparation, money, everything going that way. So that momentum is there, it will happen, which is resulted in the amount of parts under development. But beyond, let's say 100, 110K, we will be looking at what next?
Right.
What next? How are we going to handle technology disruption over time? So my guess is, at this point of time, sitting where I am, we will be making small bets over time. Some will be in our existing space, some will be in new space. Why small bets? Because it's too nascent today to make a big bet. And anyway, we are a small player. So whatever bet we can make will be small. So this is the way I see our future.
Great.
Makes
So it
sense?
sounds, yeah, absolutely. And I think it's exciting times, I guess, some uncertainty. But on the other hand, if I guess the CV industry even goes back to where it was, and given where you are, I think, as you said, the more than doubling of sales, doubling of ROC, all these things look very much possible in like almost we can see it. That's really great. And I think exciting times, sir. And
Thank you.
wishing you all the very best for that. And thank you very much for spending time. And we'll continue this discussion.
Sure. Pleasure. If there's any feedback on whatever I've said which has not come through the chat,
Right.
I would request participants to mail Jairaj or Sanjeev, and if you could kindly pass it on to me. Particularly critical feedback.
Yes.
What you don't like about MM Forgings.
Yeah.
That would be more welcome.
Great, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks
all.
for the time, sir. Thanks for the
Thank
time.
you. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. Good day.